Titanfall 2 is the kind of game that no matter how long it's been, always seems to stand out. That always seems to have a dedicated following, where any person in that following will happily and readily tell you that you too should play the game. Now, I've been lucky enough to play a few of these in my time, most notably and most recently, Hollow Knight. The thing about Hollow Knight is that to play the whole game, you're looking at dozens of hours for full completion. Getting my 112% last year, which comedically was still not enough to actually complete the game, took me 85 hours, and I closed the book on that experience completely understanding why the Hollow Knight community was so invested for so long in seeing more from this studio in this style. The thing about Titanfall 2, however, is that this is not an 85-hour experience. This was not even a 5-hour experience. And maybe part of the pull for Titanfall 2 is, or rather was, the multiplayer. Titanfall 1, after all, was a multiplayer exclusive title, so perhaps that was the intended pull of the series, but the multiplayer for Titanfall 2 is less than accessible right now, it would seem. And yet, I am told to play this game, which tells me that my focus should be on the main story of the game. That somewhere within these 5 hours is the understanding of how a game could grip an audience so tightly. 5 hours, I am told, is all it will take for this game to get you. 5 hours, and a decade later, that audience will still be demanding more. So I had to see for myself. For the duration of our experience, we will be playing as Rifleman 3rd Class Jack Cooper. Traditionally, it seems, within the form of the militia we find ourselves enlisted in, this would be no special thing were it not for the judgment of one Captain Ty Lastimosa, who has, in some way and some form, dictated that we might, just maybe, have what it takes to be a Titan pilot like him. And while he can't do something so bold as, say, let us actually pilot a Titan ourselves, he can sneak us into the simulation bay for the next best thing. This simulation is a 2-part endeavor. It is a quick bit of narrative explanation for what this world is and how its weapons feel and how its movement works, and it is also the Gauntlet. Quite frankly, the Gauntlet kind of deserves its own video. It was not a thing of particular note or value to me on my first playthrough, but as I have played more and more of this game, more and more of that time spent in the game has been spent here in the Gauntlet, chasing the age-old ideal, can this be done perfectly? Maybe someday we can return to the Gauntlet to talk about it in depth, but that'll have to wait. Being in the militia, naturally, comes with being a combatant, and we're pulled from our simbay early to get prepped for a hot drop into a combat zone against this story's bad guys, the IMC. This fight goes pretty bad, pretty fast, because what had been expected by militia forces to be an IMC research planet with minimal defensive capabilities named Typhon quickly reveals itself to be a closely guarded military locale with IMC anti-orbital platforms ripping the militia fleet apart. Those lucky enough to survive the ambush in orbit are able to make it planetside, with the unfortunate reveal that it's really not much better down here than it was up there. We're able to link up with a handful of friendly militia riflemen, but things go wrong fast. The reveal that the IMC also have Titans is such a simple thing, but it added so much to this scene for me the first time I saw it. The only Titan I'd really seen up to this point had been BT serving with Captain Lastimosa, and so when a combat engagement started to go really bad, only for a Titan to suddenly make an impressive entrance, I naturally thought, oh thank goodness, we're all going to be saved. Squish. It was a genuine moment of horror for me in an otherwise not very scary game, and I kind of always loved that. Thankfully, we live to tell the tale, because at the last moment, BT and Lastimosa make an actual entrance of their own. Lastimosa is kind enough to tuck us into cover and give us a quick hit of the good shit before re-engaging the enemy, but like I said, it's not any better on the ground than it was in orbit. Lastimosa puts up a good fight, but there's really no such thing as an amateur Titan pilot, and these mercs hired by the IMC, known as the Apex Predators, really drive that home. Between the mental trauma of losing a mentor, a heavy dose of whatever they're packing into stims in the future, and the physical trauma of being on the bad end of a Titanfall, Rifleman 3rd Class Jack Cooper decides he's due for a nap. Besides, things always look brighter in the morning. Anyways, morning comes and the ravine is full of wolves who love to eat human corpses, and guess what? The corpse part? That's optional. Thankfully, Lastimosa is only mostly dead, which means partially alive, which means fully capable of firing a few 20mm projectiles inches from our head. With the wolves scared off, Reed turned into paste, he has just enough time left to transfer the neural link authorizing control of BT to us. You're a pilot now. Congrats on the promotion. Or at least we might be, if we can get BT up and running. He took a pretty heavy blow during the combat last night, and we'll need to find 2 replacement batteries for him somewhere in the wreck of our old ship, and this is where the game really starts to show its hand. You see, the gauntlet from before is not just an example of the game's physics and movement, but rather, it is the preparation for what the game will expect from you, from the moment you put on the pilot helmet until the end of the story, and in case you didn't fully grasp that, the journey to claim these 2 batteries will be a firm but gentle enforcer of this. You're gonna need to move fast, and then faster still, because there are IMC salvage teams inbound to the ravine that we need to outpace, and assuming they get there and find exactly 1 less Titan corpse than they expect, the next people to hear about it will be the ones in charge of making those corpses. So, let's go. Battery 1 can be claimed by vaguely understanding the mechanical concepts presented by Titanfall 2's movement. Battery 2, however, starts introducing more complexity into the movement variety, and suddenly, if you're not doing it correctly, it's not just that the game is slow or that you have a harder time. There are things you will not be able to do. You will not be able to progress even this first level if you're not getting this right. The moment this clicked for me, that the movement in Titanfall 2 was not just fun, but was like required, was such a special moment because I'm not really used to it. I've played plenty of shooters before or first-person games, but it feels remarkably rare for a game to say, this is new, this is how to do it, if you can't do it, you can't play. And saying that in regards to movement is such a love letter to me specifically. I have a very particular obsession with movement and movement mechanics, and it's not often I see a game invite me in for an experience with so much depth. Like, did you know that you can beat Skyrim without jumping? In all my hundreds of hours of Skyrim, I do not think there is a single place wherein the game says if you don't jump right here, you cannot progress the story. And roughly 18 seconds into Titanfall 2, I was told, hey, shit-ass, you better master wall running right the fuck now. Or at least you need to be able to do it. And as long as I tried my best, the game did seem willing to work with me. With 2 batteries acquired, BT is fully operational and not a moment too soon. One of the things that makes Titanfall 2 so universally adored, I think, is not just that the game has an incredible sense of movement for the player character in Jack Cooper, or that piloting BT invokes a true sense of mech suit-based power fantasy, but that the transition between those 2 perfected forms is functionally seamless. Like, really, think about this for a second. If you know what Titanfall 2 is, pretend you don't. Slip into that most awful of alternate realities where this game doesn't exist, and then imagine that I came to you and I said, hi, I'm making a game. It's going to be about playing as a super acrobatic and lithe human super soldier and also a big stompy slow mech suit. And just think for a moment about how those ideas naturally counter each other. It would need to be a perfect game to pull off that kind of mix, and it wasn't until my 3rd playthrough of Titanfall 2 that I even had the thought of, it's so weird how this isn't weird. It honestly still baffles me a little bit that somehow this game can go between hyper-speed parkour and big stompy mech so seamlessly, but I think I have the main ways it works pinned down. Let's call them the rapid entry and the fastball. The rapid entry is a pretty simple idea, but it's also the kind of idea that makes a thing really good. In a lesser experience, the mechanical process of taking over the pilot seat in a mech would be a whole thing. There would be levers and beep-boop sequences, and it would really try and sell the idea that you are climbing into the seat of a very big, slow, heavy, complicated, stompy machine. But the thing about Titanfall is that this game doesn't want to feel big or slow or heavy at literally any point in time, so the process of getting into your mech needs to be as fluid as possible, which is why the main entryway of getting into your mech involves BT opening his entire fucking torso like he's the boss in some medieval fantasy sewer, and either letting you jump right in or by giving you the wildest uppies you've ever received. The entire process takes maybe, 1 second? which means in this way, the sense of momentum that the game builds while you're on foot as a pilot is always maintained when switching between the game's two main styles of play. The fastball, however, is where things get a little more special. It only occurs a few times at specific and scripted locations during a handful of different levels, but it acts as the perfect opposite to the rapid entry because it's, in essence, just you as Cooper being thrown as hard and as far as BT possibly can whenever you're met with a distance that simply can't be covered otherwise. And, as you might expect from being thrown hard enough to clear like 100 meters of open air, you're gonna be moving pretty fast when you land. And this drives me insane in the best way because I know that there's no way the game would just freely give me so much momentum if there wasn't a way for me to keep it going. And trying to nail the game's movement to such a degree that I'm able to maintain that fastball momentum is such an addicting thing that keeps me coming back to this game's story over and over. One of the things I like to talk about in games, specifically level-based games, is what I refer to as the game's standout mission. The mission with the most oomph packed into it, the one with the special one-off mechanic, the mission with the biggest set piece, the biggest deviation from the game's more standard mechanical experience. In Combat Evolved, for example, I would say that the standout level is the Flood, as it's the level with the most distinct tone and vibe, with a strong deviation from the overall sense of the rest of the game. In Dishonored 1, you're looking at the Boyle Estate, with that estate being the only place where this masked assassin is not suspicious. And in Dishonored 2, we're talking Stilton's Manor, thanks to the level's mind-bending time travel mechanic. The thing about standout levels is that they don't just represent where it's likely that the devs have sunk either the majority or the largest minority of their timeshare, it's also where the most creativity is required in the design stage. I think my dog's barking, hold on. And perhaps the wildest thing about Titanfall 2 is that Titanfall 2 doesn't have a standout level. Now, I'm worried that what you just heard is that Titanfall 2 doesn't have anything special going on, but the truth is that Titanfall 2 simply has so many levels with something special going on that there's no way to pin down one as particularly stand out. Like, okay, levels 1 and 2, named BT 7274 and Blood and Rust, respectively, are moderately simple, and this is moderately okay because they're fucking levels 1 and 2. It's okay if they don't drop, like, I don't know, time travel on you, off jump, while you're still getting down the finer points of mech-based combat and Mach 2 shotgun and run strats. But from the moment you pass into level 3 and beyond, this game just starts hitting pose after pose as it continues to flex every creative muscle you've ever seen and a bunch you never have. Levels 1 and 2 are responsible for establishing the tone of the first half of the game. You've survived an absolute slaughter, and your only chance at prolonging that survival is to link up with any surviving militia forces in the area. This means moving to meet up with one Major Anderson at his last known location, which would be easy were it not for the metric shitload of IMC Titans between you and there. Hey, look, I know you've only been a Titan pilot for like 47 seconds, but you're gonna need to get good at this real fast. Assuming you have enough natural talent to avoid becoming a fine paste after taking one too many 40mm explosive rounds straight to the carapace, level 3 will present itself as really not too dissimilar to levels 1 and 2. All you need to do is make your way through the shortcut that BT found, cutting through an IMC factory, and everything goes really smooth until BT gets repoed. This puts you on foot for the majority of the level, and this is where the game is going to make sure that you really have a good grasp on the movement mechanics of being a pilot, because this factory is massive, full of bad guys, and the platforms that you need to carry you towards your objective are constantly flipping all over the place as different elements of a fabrication process occur. But what are they fabricating? Great question, battlefield simulations, and you're the next trial. There's so much actual humor here, with Cooper asking BT if he knows what the IMC are constructing here, and BT responding that whatever it is, it's not homes because the IMC prefer to blow those up, only for the reveal that actually they are building homes, only for the double reveal that actually, they're building homes for the purpose of blowing them up. This level is funny, it's exciting, and it's crazy unique in its execution and the movement required to play it, and it would probably be a great standout level if everything that followed wasn't just as good. Level 4 sees you and BT finally making contact with Major Anderson with one notable problem. This one is all dead. No, mostly here. I'll spare you the complicated details. Anderson was sent to this location to investigate a thing that the IMC discovered on Typhon called a fold weapon. It's not something they made, it's something they found, something that assumedly predates us as a concept, but if you use it correctly, with absolutely monstrous air quotes, you can do this to, say, a nearby moon. You know, on a low-power test fire. And local IMC leadership looked at what the weapon could do to a lifeless, oversized rock, and they thought, hey, that's cool.
What if we tried it on people?
So the game plan is to use it on the militia planet of Harmony, home to 40 million. Good to know. But it's the process of figuring it out that's important here, because the fold in fold weapon refers to space and time, and using the weapon makes those two things do the funny. Thankfully, Anderson's corpse is currently holding on to a funny device that will let us travel between our current time and a period in the past, letting us collect all of the information we need to fulfill Anderson's final mission. I've talked before about how much I love this sort of gimmick to a level. It's the basis for my favorite level in Dishonored 2, that aforementioned Stilton's Manor, and I love it so much that I even had a blast with it in Starfield, when Bethesda really tried their best to do something similar. But in Starfield, you can only jump at predetermined points, and in Dishonored 2, your jump ability has a small little charge up. But here, in Titanfall 2, your jump between timelines is just as rapid and fluid as the rest of the game. I swear at multiple points, I have dodged individual bullets by either slipping forwards or backwards in time, and then positioning myself behind my alternate timeline attacker, and then jumping back to their time just to crack their skulls open. Nothing personal, kid. But this speed is also required, because at multiple points in the level, you'll be asked to use this time travel jump mechanic to bypass split-second barriers, where your only way to progress is to jump back and forth as fast as you can, while also remembering where in the alternate timeline those barriers begin and end. It is maybe the best feeling level to play, and I came out of it feeling like so smart and good at the movement, only for level 5 to instantly check me on that. We're just gonna breeze past the first half of Beacon because, oh my god, there's big things coming. The first half sees us responding to some militia troopers that are pinned down in the proximity of a radar facility. They're trying to call for help. IMC is making it hard. We fix the problem. You fixed one problem, yes, but what about second problem? Can I send a message? Sorry, message machine broken. Not understandable. Have a bad day. The satellite array responsible for sending out the militia distress message is on the far side of the complex, and there's no way for BT or Cooper to reach it, at least not conventionally. We get to enjoy 2 different fastball events this level. Truly, our cup runneth over. And this alone would make this level such a blast to play and replay, if for no other reason than for the pursuit of perfection and trying to maintain that fastball speed as long as possible, a thing that I still struggle to do, but for as much fun as the set piece is, it's our first contact with Commander Sarah Briggs that really means the world to me here. You see, with the relay repaired and the message away, it's not long before a militia response fleet enters orbit, led by one Sarah Briggs. Upon first contact, BT explains the situation planetside, including the passing of his previous pilot, Ty Lastimosa, and that he was linked to Jack Cooper, as Lastimosa had no other options. Upon hearing this, Briggs sounds almost embarrassed and assures BT that they'll get him linked to a qualified pilot as soon as possible, only for BT to insist that his effectiveness rating with his current pilot, psst, that's you, is actually really high, and he requests permission to maintain his current link, and Briggs really has no choice but to allow it, with the militia having their backs to the wall. But what I really love here is how little you as Cooper get to hold sway over this conversation, read not at all. BT comes at it with this most fucking, like, Mom, look at this rifleman I found, can I keep him, please, type energy as he literally picks you up and puts you into the pilot seat. And when Briggs comments on how lucky, quote, you are to get to maintain the link, she specifies that she's talking to BT, not you. Literally, the only time you are directly addressed in the scene is for Briggs to mention that this type of request is high praise coming from a machine. I struggle to find the right words for this, but there is something I just adore about this level of respect and autonomy being given to BT as the Titan here. You aren't special. BT is special. And because BT chooses you, now you're special. And what I love the most about this is that once this is established, it is never questioned. Okay, here's the deal. The IMC are preparing to move a device known as the Arc. It's the power source for the fold weapon, so it's important to get our hands on it before they get the chance to turn Harmony into just harm. And what follows is some of the most delightful and weighty and cinematic combat I've ever had the joy to play in a shooter. This mission is 100% you and the Titan elite of the militia throwing everything you have at the IMC forces at the facility housing the Arc in a race to get to the device before it can be loaded into a transport. And what I love about this is how downright dangerous it feels for all parties involved. Yes, you're just called the militia. Yes, you've been on the back foot all game. Do not let that deceive you. The militia is not some ramshackle collection of scrappy underdogs trying their best with last generation tech. You are a dangerous fighting force, throwing serious weight at another dangerous fighting force. And this is where the game is going to really get the chance to show that off. Mechanically, visually, there is not really too much going on here to blow my back out, but that's okay. I'm still recovering from getting lobbed at Mach Fuck last level twice. Rather, there's just something so unashamedly honest about this experience. You're a Titan pilot. You're on the march with a bunch of other Titan pilots. And all you gotta do is kill every enemy Titan. Go nuts. Despite your best efforts, and you were looking good out there, we all saw you, the IMC has just enough time to get the Arc loaded onto a transport vessel. This means that you lose and the game is over. Sorry. Just fucking kidding. Get ready for the hottest shit you've ever seen. In my video on Halo Reach, I casually mentioned that Exodus is a level so powerful that I could probably just do a whole video on that level alone, and I think that sentiment also applies to level 7 of Titanfall, the Arc. To keep it simple here, the IMC have loaded the Arc, which powers the fold weapon, which does this to planets, onto a transport ship. That transport ship and its escort fleet is currently en route to the fold weapon, and the militia is hot on their heels with a pursuit fleet of their own. Your job is to secure the Arc at any cost. I'm really not sure where to even begin with this level, because while I do genuinely believe that Titanfall 2 does not have a standout level, because basically every level brings standout level energy to the table, the Arc is so unashamedly cool as fuck in every conceivable metric, and trying to pin that down to a series of events for me to put footage to is such a challenge. I only promise to try my best. Okay, the militia is gaining on the IMC carrier holding onto the Arc, the Draconis, but there's a problem. IMC Battleship Malta is holding a clear defensive firing line just behind the carrier, so any attempt to move into a kill position is too risky. Why doesn't the militia just fly above the Malta? Oh my god, shut the fuck up. This means that your job is going to be to clear the firing deck of the Malta, alone, without Titan or fire support. One man versus an entire crew. It would be an impossible task if you weren't a pilot. So it's time to prove you are one. With a fastball from BT and a little help from the 6-4, we are on board. If there was ever a place to establish in this game that pilots as a concept are simply the coolest goddamn things in the universe, it would be this right here. Clearing this deck is just the right amount of intensity. It is the perfect place for me to use all of the tools and mechanics that the game has given me, while still pushing me to make sure I am using them well. Obviously, in a metatextual sense, you can take as long as you need or want to clear this firing deck, but if you let yourself sink into the sense of narrative, you're gonna feel the pressure to go fast. Thankfully, that's what a pilot is best at. With the main firing deck of the Malta secure, you're able to get some backup in the form of the 6-4, who I mentioned briefly earlier. The 6-4 are Frontier Corps pilots, similar to you, and this team-up section with them absolutely just, like, fuck, man, it's so fucking good, though. Like, from the way they enter the fight, just absolutely dripping with aura, the presentation from each one of them, the chatter back and forth between the team, this quite frankly feels like a squad from a totally different game with an entire-ass story and narrative to build them up just jumped into the Malta with me. And there's something so cool about this being the first chance you get to fight with other pilots. Like, yeah, okay, yes, we just did Trial by Fire, putting us shoulder to shoulder with other Titans, but to go boots on the ground with other pilots is the coolest thing in the whole game for me. Clearing the Malta and then storming the command bridge is probably my favorite set piece in a game made up entirely of my favorite set pieces. The piece concludes with BT getting dropped onto the deck, and we have just enough time to link up before we're jumped. I haven't mentioned him yet, but the whole time we're trying to clear and control the Malta, this airborne asshole, codename Viper, has been making himself a real nuisance for Team Militia, and he will be your boss fight for this evening. If I got some war criminal for the table, would you have a bite? Honestly, it's just such an engaging fight. Like, you've got the main boss, you've got two random dipshit Titans that think they're gonna get overtime. Psst, they're not. You've got some great new mechanics to work with Viper being the first real flying threat you've had to deal with, and oh my god, you're on top of a giant fucking spaceship. And the whole time the fight is going on, you've got a clear shot of the fold weapon in the background, making sure you know what the stakes are. Just, mwah! Oh, my compliments to the chef. I give you 3 bishop circles. They're like Michelin stars, but no one cares about them. With Viper becoming Vipisn't, that worked better in my head. Let's go ahead and cut that. We're free to make one final push. The Ark is on board the Draconis. Just one quick jump ahead of the Malta, so it's time for one more fastball to save the day. Small problem, Viper is only mostly dead. And mostly dead is a big fucking problem. If you know Titanfall 2, you know what's coming in the next level. You know that we're going to see Protocol 3 protect the pilot in action. But that scene really only holds value if you care about BT, and the struggle that Titanfall 2 has to contend with is that its most important scene hinges on you caring about a character, but giving you less than 5 hours to interact with that character. And honestly, it should probably be counted as even less, as multiple levels see you mostly on foot, with BT just being a voice on a radio. What I'm trying to say here is that there is an art form to this, to packing so much incentive to care, I suppose, into a character. And it's this scene with Viper, even more so than the upcoming Protocol 3 scene, that got me to realize how much I cared about BT. The genuine sense of panic I got seeing Viper grab BT like this, the way that Matthew Mercer as the VA for Jack perfectly sells the genuine scream of "I'm pretty sure I'm about to die," the way that Cooper almost seems to try and instinctually push BT out of the way as Viper comes in, the fact that you can watch BT track the ships below you so he knows the right time and place to drop you to keep you safe while also getting you onto the Draconis, the way that BT and Viper come crashing in from off-screen, the way that BT's form here is identical to his final takedown with Lastimosa, the way that you are simply denied an entrance into this fight, the way that the game makes you a passenger in the most damaging fight we've ever seen BT be in. I couldn't help be scared for BT. And like, I know BT is gonna be okay. I've been on the internet for a while. I know about the Protocol 3 scene. I know BT has to survive this. But watching this multi-ton combat mech get into a fist fight and lose an arm, it's the same type of feeling I'd have looking over and realizing that my dog is being attacked by another dog. I swear to God, Viper is the only pilot kill in the entire game that I took personally. Fuck me, man, I love this level. Okay, we've spent way too long on this level. Shit, let me check my notes. Viper, Detroit become corpse, Draconis going down, Ark storage room, cop of the Ark, ship explodes prematurely, don't worry, happens to the best of us, ship goes down, happens to the best of us, BT keeps us safe, perfect, okay, level over. You know what this is about. You know that this level might as well be called Protocol 3, and we'll get there, but don't let Protocol 3 distract you from everything else this level is. With the crashing of the Draconis, both you and BT find yourselves captured by the IMC. BT does his best to keep the Ark secure, but it's really just a matter of time. The Seer Kit reveal is such an oddly intimate moment. It's partly the fact that BT literally rips off his own face to give it to you, but it's also the fact that doing so is potentially his last act. And in doing so, you will receive the contents of the Seer Kit. 1 pistol, 1 knife, and the data core that is the entirety of BT-7274. Let's talk about these in order. When I say 1 pistol, you might think, oh handy, a little thing to use in case of emergencies, the kind of thing that you always keep the final bullet for, just in case, and if you think this, you're a fool with a fool's brain. The smart pistol is basically a WMD that fits in your hand, because this little doodad can lock onto targets and is a one-shot kill on everything that isn't a Titan, which means you get to play this shit crazy fast. My plot hole. If Smart Pistol's so good, why don't they just give one to every person? Holy fucking god, my dude, it's called saving the best for last. Jacob Geller did like 1 billion videos on this. Stop embarrassing me. Where was I? Right, yeah, best thing in the world. Saving the best for last, running and gunning feels super fluid. Nice, nice. The knife, let's see here. You use it to open this door. Is that it? No, surely is there? Huh. Maybe I missed something. Oh well. Finally, the data core. I mentioned the intimacy inherent to these opening moments, and I want to come back to that for a moment, because with the retrieval of BT's data core, there is an important moment of recognition to have here. We're literally holding BT's entire existence in our hand, and this is a beautiful type of trust for us to be given. I mean, think about it. Between all of the times that BT has delivered us via fastball or saved us from a crazy plunge with a crazy one-headed catch, literally holding your partner's life in your hand has been a huge theme in this story. And this is going to be our one chance to repay the favor, to make us equals in that sentiment. I especially love that BT's data core doesn't go onto like a belt or into the always assumed and ever-present off-screen pocket, but rather, you are holding on to it for the entire solo run. You never get a chance to forget what's at stake. As luck would have it, militia forces are throwing everything they've got into one final assault on the fold weapon, and they're close enough to manage a lock-on to the signal from BT's data core. They're not close enough, however, to reach the fold weapon in time. Briggs calls out that there is one last Vanguard-class Titan still in reserve, and she drops it onto your location with no time to spare. Your reward for keeping BT safe is getting one last ride with him. This last march with BT to literally save the world, it just... fuck, man, it feels so good. It really sells the feeling that you, as Cooper and BT, are the only hope, but it never makes you... while also never making you feel alone. The whole time through this mission, I fully buy into the idea presented that the militia is throwing everything it has at the fold weapon, and it simply isn't enough with the time they have. I'm so enthralled by the feeling this level provides of dancing around other Titans in these massive duels while hearing danger close callouts from militia air support, and I don't quite know how to say this, but there is a power fantasy to looking down this hallway full of IMC grunts and glancing to my 20mm autocannon and having the moment of like, oh, this is gonna be a little fucked, but you guys did sign up with the genocide faction. And obviously, you get to the fold weapon just a moment too late. The Ark is already loaded into the injector, and BT takes a massive hit as the Ark is loaded into the weapon. This means we are officially at 0 time left. The weapon is charging, and if it fires, 40 million people die. Can I highlight a simple thing here? From the moment BT starts rebooting, you can hear him chattering about a throw, only option, a throw is our only option, and if this is your first experience with the story, I think it would be easy to think that this is BT just like processing information, or I don't know, malfunctioning somehow. But we both know what's about to happen here. BT is going to have us load him into the injector, and he's going to overload his fusion reactor right at impact to destabilize the fold weapon. He needs us in the pilot seat to guide him, though, because his automated movement systems were damaged in the initial blast. And right as Cooper assures BT that he's not going anywhere, BT enforces Protocol 3. Protect the pilot. What this means is that all the talk of a throw is our only option. Even in his damaged state, BT has run the numbers on what needs to be done, understands what needs to be done, and in the face of his own demise and with 40 million human lives on the line, his literal first thought is, how do I keep you safe? A throw is our only option. There is a final set piece, a last bit of movement for you to play, a great last-second save by Briggs & Co., and then, like, the game just ends? We get a narrative bit about what comes next in the story, and then the game just ends? And you leave us hanging for a decade? You know what this feels like? This feels like, okay, have you ever been to one of those restaurants that's just a touch too fancy for its own good? The kind of place where they insist on your meal being like a bazillion courses, but each course is like one single bite? And you think, oh wow, what a letdown, there's no way this is gonna be any good, and then you have that single bite and it absolutely blasts your back right out because it's the best bite you've ever had in your entire life, and you naturally look down for the next bite and the plate is fucking empty!
There's nothing here!
I genuinely do not think I have ever seen a game cram so much quality into so short an experience. Genuinely, it feels like over half the game is just trying to get to the point of the story where the game begins. That sounds so dull, but the time is perfectly spent. It's just the right amount of time alone with BT to really start to connect with him, to start to enjoy this relationship, to start to see these two value each other right before it's all taken away. It's just enough time with the mechanics and the movement for you to start to feel really, really comfortable with going incredibly fast. And it's a story with just enough stakes and characters to make you feel invested in not just this little slice of the story, but the overall universe. I mean, you want to talk about cramming perfection into a tiny container? You got Matthew fucking Mercer over here voicing Jack Cooper, and he's got like 12 lines! You got one of the best VAs in the world over here, and you put him in the booth for like 30 minutes! Come on, man! I just want so much more of this from this, which I guess just makes me part of the crowd at this point. Because Titanfall 2 is one of those games, you know? The kind of game that no matter how long it's been, always seems to have a dedicated following, and every person in that following will happily and readily tell you that you too should play the game because, oh my god, you should play the game. And a game doesn't earn that following for nothing. Thank God Titanfall 3 comes out tomorrow. It worked for Silksong. Guys, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. If you're still here, I'd love it if you did all the YouTube stuff, like, subscribe. It helps the channel a lot. Let's see. I've got Patreon and Ko-Fi if you want to help keep the lights on. Shout out to Ivan Thanosi, DeviceMD, and T.Log for going absolutely crazy with their support. If you want to see more of me, I stream on Wednesdays and Fridays here on YouTube, and I've got a bit of a secret project going on as well. It's basically just a Warhammer-themed lifestyle vlog, but hey, people seem to like it. Oh, we've also got a community Discord. If you're chill and fun to hang out with, you should be a part of it. I'm, you know, fairly active on there. Okay, that's everything. All right, I'm out of here. Have a nice time zone.